Hello and welcome to another edition of Sit Down with the Director. I'm Robin Phillips and we're here again today with our Director of Schools, Mr. Bobby Cox. Hello, Bobby.
Hello, Robin.
And we are getting ready. We've actually got a nice sunny day today and looking forward. I think spring break will be next week. So everybody remember that we have a break next week. No school for students, Monday through Friday. That would be the 18th. The week of the 18th, and returning on the 24th?
I think so.
On Monday the 24th. Ready to go. We'll start having tests and all those things shortly thereafter.
That's right.
So everybody needs to rest up.
Right.
And so what we're going to do today is that we're going to do a little bit different segment because we do have something to share with you that Mr. Cox has been involved with called the Equity Playbook. And that has been a big, it's been a national project that he's been a part of, and it's been adopted by the state of Tennessee in April of last year and has been utilized in our schools. All of our teachers this summer were trained on it, and it's a good work of, a good piece of work, and again, that we're using it in our schools, and we wanted to let you guys know a little bit about that and what that is and how it's working in our schools. And also Bobby has to do a piece for some other folks who also need to know about it. So we're going to be a little bit more formal with the questioning today so that I can ask him some of the questions that those folks want to know that we thought you would also be interested in. So I'm going to turn it basically over to Bobby, but I wanted to first of all ask him to tell us a little bit about what this work is and how you got involved and who all else has been involved in that process.
Okay. Well, the process we started about 2 or really almost 3 years ago, and it was a committee that was set up through the State Department of Education, really granted through the Wallace Foundation, and they've been working to develop a playbook that we could use in schools in Tennessee over 7 different topics. To increase the knowledge and equity within those schools. So we've had several different members I was representing rural Tennessee districts, we have urban Tennessee districts, we have different people from outside the school environment. So, you know, it's been a really good working group to come to the point that we're at right now. And the playbook is being used in different ways. There's different commitments that are there for school board members, for school staff, for those outside of the school, and you know, everybody from the Urban League and other people that partner with the schools. And those commitments really kind of drive change. We've taken 2 of those, chronic absenteeism and suspension, expulsion, and really looked at those because they fit into our accountability. So that's really what we've really worked on to date, as well as social emotional learning that you've been involved in, and other members of our staff to kind of go along with those 2 commitments to help reduce suspensions and expulsions in our district and to increase attendance in school and reduce chronic absenteeism.
Okay, so and I just was going to maybe say for those who aren't familiar with them, and everybody really knows what equity is what's fair for everyone. But I think the point of this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that this is to make our schools to be accessible to everyone.
Right.
And so the focus on chronic absenteeism is to help, you know, with barriers to keep, so that all children can come to school and learn, and they can learn when they're here. And then the same thing with absenteeism, that if we can help make sure that we're looking at those things that might prevent some students from coming to school or barriers that they might have, that would help all students. So that's sort of the point of this work.
Absolutely, and you know, it's to try to, I think you defined it well, to try to define what each student individually needs, not just saying across the board that we're going to do X to be equal to everyone, you know, because everyone has different needs. So we want to try to meet the needs of the individual students, and that's really kind of what, we looked at equity. What is equitable for one person may not be the same for another. It's to try to meet their individual needs and make sure that everybody is being treated fairly and equitable across the board.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, then I am going to ask you some of these questions so
Okay.
that we get what you need as well, but also what you can share with our viewers.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, can you describe to me the involvement that you've had with the Tennessee Leaders for Equity Playbook?
Okay, well, like I said, we've been starting about 2 years ago, and we had several committee meetings. We meet at least once a month, either online or in person, and several meetings we've had in New York City with the Wallace Foundation, and it's really been a national push. So last month we had, I think, about 20 to 30 different states that met in Washington, and we focused on our area, which was the Equity Playbook. There's other groups that are focusing on Principal Pipeline, but what the Tennessee team really came together and did was to develop this, and we've been sharing this not only across the state with every school district across the state, but also with other states to kind of show them what we've been working on to not only meet accountability measures, but to help schools become more equitable across the board. So my involvement has been to represent rural Tennessee, and specifically Warren County, to give a rural perspective of what's going on within the state and how that helps us meet our needs, I guess you'd say.
Okay, and why is this work around equity important?
Well, again, like we've said earlier, each individual person has different needs. We can make the boxes all even, I guess, if we wanted to. If a great example was a slide that we've seen that there are several different people looking over a fence into a ball game, and if we make the boxes where they can look over the fence equal, but they're different heights, then everybody has a different perspective. So, or the same perspective. What we need to do is, if one person is a little shorter than the other, or one person's a little taller than the other, then the box might need to be shorter or taller to make sure everybody has an equal view of the ball game that they're looking at. So that's just kind of the example, that we've been using. We need to put the supports in place to provide the need or answer the need for the individual person, no matter what they need.
Okay. As a rural school district, how have you used the Tennessee Leaders for Equity Playbook?
Well, we've used it within our district several different ways. One, we provided first that information to the school board and provided them a copy of the Equity Playbook, and then we also infused that into our strategic plan. So with your help and Candace and team there with social emotional learning and the goal that we have within our strategic plan, we really started focusing on the two areas that are in the playbook of chronic absenteeism and suspension and expulsion, but it also fits with social emotional learning and positive behavior support. So every teacher, most every teacher, I guess, had the road show that the slides were provided to them from the Equity Playbook. We shared that with our school board. We also shared it with our county commission education committee, and then all of our central office staff has had a copy of that, as well as our principals in schools.
Walk me through one of the leader actions for one of the 7 commitments for a rural school principal, and what does that look like?
Okay. Well, as you can see, well, you can't really see it here, but as we look here, there's recommended actions for decreasing chronic absenteeism, and they're broken up into school leader actions, district leader actions, board actions, and community actions. So if we took just one of those where it says create a school-wide plan to partner with families, communities to understand attendance barriers and to create potential solutions together as a school leader. Well, we have a state requirement now that we have a 3-tiered attendance model. So, one of the things that the school principals would do, they would identify those students who are at risk, who don't meet, the truancy requirement. They would go through their tiers to ensure that meetings were had with the parent to determine what the barriers were, to ensure that we provide them the supports and the commitments on both ends to help their child not be a chronic absenteeism problem, but they would improve their attendance. So, you know, it looks different in each school, but the umbrella is really the same. So when we're looking at school leader actions, there are several that are there, but that's just one that, you know, we try to mesh that into our current policy and our current strategic plan to make it all fit together.
Okay. Walk me through one of the leader actions for one of the 7 commitments for a rural district superintendent.
Okay.
And what does that look like?
Okay. You know, the same way, if we look at the action plan, district leader actions, it says provide training to all principals to develop effective monitoring systems, targeted prevention and intervention strategies for RTI2. So we use that, you know, obviously with our roadshow. We develop that into our strategic plan. I feel very strongly about our strategic plan that we have one plan that we follow, whether it be school improvement planning or the Equity Playbook. Everything needs to fit into our strategic plan if we're going to do it, so that we work on one plan. So if we're looking at a district leader, my goal is to make sure that it fits into that strategic plan, that our board is aware of that and has approved of that, that we know we're working on one plan, and then to make sure that we provide the proper training to our principals, to all our teachers through the roadshow like we did, you know, to make sure we're focusing on the goals that we want to accomplish, which in this one is chronic absenteeism.
Okay. Walk me through one of the leader actions of the 7 commitments for a school board member of a rural district.
Rural district, okay. And the same thing, we'll just walk right down through the actions. And it says regularly reviews local absenteeism data with the superintendent, establish clear goals to address chronic absenteeism, and develop and monitor a strategy for improving chronic absenteeism. Well, we try to provide that data to our local board on an ongoing basis, not only our board, but our county commission as well. So we've monitored that. We've noticed now that we've reduced our chronic absenteeism rate by almost 3/4, I guess you'd say. We were at about 14% last year as a district. We're at about 3% right now. You know, we have goals that we have set, our AMO goals and reduction goals that are set by the state, and those are posted in our boardroom. And I monitor those on an ongoing basis and then report that out. So what the school board would do was take that information. We report on various different things throughout the year. We go through our strategic plan, you know, goal by goal at the beginning of the school year. So they monitor that, you know, through reporting and through data, not only in academics, but also with these factors to make sure that we're trying to meet our goals.
Okay. Where have you seen the playbook implemented, and how is it being used?
Well, and again, I keep kind of sound like a broken record, but you know, we've focused on 2 things: suspension, expulsion, and chronic absenteeism. Both of those things I see that are at work in our district. We've reduced our suspension rate dramatically. We had over 600 suspensions last year. I think to date we were somewhere around the 150 mark to 200. And that's district-wide. Our middle school has dramatically changed. They had well over 200. I think they haven't even reached maybe 20 to 25 right now. So we've really looked at other avenues. So that's the best way that I can say it's at work. And then the chronic absenteeism numbers. Our high school has really dropped. They were at 24%. They were somewhere around 2%. Or 3%. You know, the last time we checked was about a month ago. Elementaries were about that same rate. So overall, we were about 14% last year. We're about 3% right now. But we still have some of those students that are just really on the edge. So we can't, you know, take our foot off the pedal, I guess you would say. We have to monitor that and make sure that what we've put in place we're following up on.
Describe for me what you think is the most important message to communicate through the Leader for Equity Playbook.
Well, I think the most important thing that I really wanted to push home was we don't need another mandate. you know, if this is something that you have to do, because each district is different. You know, we may not have a, you know, other districts may not have a chronic absenteeism problem or suspension expulsion problem. So there's other things in the playbook that they can choose. And I think that's the most important part, is it's versatile, it's not a requirement. You know, districts can use it as they need to use it, and they can use it on the needs that they have within their district or their community. And one of the things that we wanted to be very strategic in saying is these are commitments. If you're going to do these, you want to be committed to doing those, not just action steps, but these are actually commitments that, you know, we're going to commit to do this, and if it doesn't work, then we're going to come back and look at the drawing board again and try to make sure that what we do meets best practice, and try to seek out best practice and really commit to, you know, making sure that what we focus on makes a difference.
Okay, great. Well, I think I want to thank you for your work on the SI, and it's a great piece of work. And again, keeping in mind that, you know, the ultimate equity for students and for them in their later life is to be educated. So by doing all these things to make sure they have access, by not being sent home more than necessary for exclusionary discipline, and making sure that we're checking on chronic absenteeism, having them in the classroom helps them get educated, which is, you know, the ultimate leveler of a playing field.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate that work, and as you know, I think that our district fully supports that, and we saw a lot of good results from the teachers that we trained on it this summer and their buy-in. So thank you, and thank you guys for listening and learning more about what we're doing in Warren County.